Hello my snow angels, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to start my series where I'm going to do a deep dive on different music artists in order to better understand their music, better understand them as artists, and learn from their lives. I can't think of a better place to start than with Amy Winehouse. I was probably about 12 when Rehab was a hit on the radio. Back then I didn't have much of an appreciation about jazz and was more into pop punk and alt rock bands like Panic at the Disco, Paramore, Fall Out Boy, etc. I also grew up in a super religious Mormon family that were super against the consumption of drugs, alcohol, and who often spoke about celebrities with disdain and the lack of understanding of them as human beings. And that was the case with Amy Winehouse, especially when she died in 2011. I remember my mom talking about her addiction, and that was really all that I knew about Amy Winehouse, was that she made the song Rehab, and she had addiction problems. And that was all my family knew about her too. Then a couple years ago, I had already fallen in love with jazz as a genre for quite some time, and I was curious about her. And there was one day where I needed to go to Korean immigration, and I needed an album to listen to. So I found a playlist on YouTube of all of her music videos. And it was there that I fell in love with her voice, her sense of humor, her lyricism, and the strong emotions that she communicated. Then I started to learn about her story, and my appreciation of her deepened, as well as the despair that we lost her too young. In preparation for this video, I did look up some biographies on the internet, but I also watched the documentary Amy that was released in 2015. I highly recommend the documentary since it was shot with footage from her home videos she made and has voiceovers from herself and all the people that were close to her both personally and professionally. There is a reason why I won a bunch of awards, including an Academy Award for Best Documentary. I did not watch the new biopic, so I won't be including that in the video. And actually, in principle, I refuse to watch it. I've already heard about it, and I just don't think I would come out of that feeling positively about the movie and how they chose to depict her life and relationships. That's not going to be included in here. In this video, I will cover her life the best I can under a very sympathetic lens, and as far as I know, as someone who was not there and only learned about her story. I won't focus on just her demons, her addictions, her EDs, her struggles. I'm not just going to focus on that, but also on her as a person. Also, pay no mind to the noises in the background. Shushu is in the room with me as I'm recording. So here is where I'm going to issue a content warning. There will be a discussion and mention of EDs. I'm going to try to censor as much as I can. EDs, misuse of substances, toxic relationships, and some clips will include flashing camera lights, so this is also a warning to those who suffer from epilepsy, as I will be showing paparazzi footage because it's distressing, but also because it really shows what she went through. So, that out of the way, let's get started. So Amy Winehouse was born on September 14th, 1983 in Southgate, London, to Jewish parents, Mitch and Janice Winehouse. She had an older brother named Alex. Mitch was a taxi driver and Janice was a pharmacist. Her maternal uncles were professional jazz musicians, and her grandma, Cynthia, was a singer and she dated jazz saxophonist Ronnie Scott. Amy was particularly close with Cynthia because she took care of her and she got her strength from her and the ability to tell things as they are. Amy had an extensive background in jazz. In fact, her father Mitch often sang Frank Sinatra songs. So whenever she was scolded at school, she would sing Fly Me to the Moon before singing the headmistress. As a young child, she was very nice and well-mannered until her parents were divorced when she was 9 and her father left. So a bit of background, when she was 18 months old, Her father had an affair, but he continued to stay until he was 9. And according to him, he felt like she got over the divorce pretty quickly. But the reality was that this was when she decided she could do whatever she wanted, and she started to get into trouble a lot. So it was clear from the beginning that this was an event that shook her life and affected her a lot. But this also shows how much she is as a person, and I'm gonna try to be delicate about my opinion about that. In 1997, Cynthia told her to go to Susie Earnshaw Theater School on Saturdays for vocal education and to learn tap dance. She went for 4 years and founded a rap group called Sweet and Sour with her childhood friend Juliet Ashby. I'm going to be bringing up Juliet a lot because Juliet has a lot to do with the story. When she was 13 or 14, she was put on antidepressants, but music was the way that she dealt with her mental illness. That year, she borrowed Alex's guitar and then ended up buying her own to write her own music. She wrote songs not just to help with her depression, but because what was charting then, when she was growing up, there was a lot of material where the singers didn't write the material, they were singing. And to her, that wasn't music. She grew up listening to jazz, where those singers and musicians wrote the music. So she wrote music to challenge herself and to have new music that suited her, that was like those great jazz singers. She went to Sylvia Young Theater School until she was 15, and from there she changed schools. There has been a story going around that she got expelled for wearing a nose ring, but the founder denied it. So there's no way to really know unless you were close to Amy or the family. But don't believe what you read online. Also, it was this year that she started having bulimia. The first content warning. And she told her mom and framed it as that it was a great diet where she could eat whatever she wanted and just throw it up later. Janice thought it was something that would pass. And when Amy told Mitch, he also thought it wasn't a big deal. So this is where I first started seeing the warning signs that her parents had enabling tendencies. But I'm only gonna say enabling tendencies because I don't want to name call. But more about that later. From there, she went to Mount School, Mill Hill, and Brit School, but then dropped out when she was 16. At that time, she was already performing in jazz groups. And it was then that her friend Tyler James, who was also a singer, I believe he was a soul singer, told a talent scout named Nick about her. And he said he could get her some studio time and she could get a record deal. So she recorded a lot, and Nick asked her about writing, and she said she hadn't written songs, but she wrote a lot of poems. And he knew that they were actually songs, but they were personal. And she said that she could only write songs that were personal because they happened to her. How could she write about something that didn't happen to her? According to her. And even though they were sad, she tried to make them have a punchline. She clearly had an attitude, but she was also shy and had charisma. She was infectious, as people just loved her. There was something about her. She was also very cheeky, clever, and had a great wit. I really love watching her interviews and just how quick-witted she is. It's real joy. It's a real joy to witness who she is. And I believe that it's unfortunate that when she's talked about, it's mainly about her struggles and less about how vivacious of a person she was. In 2002, she was signed to Simon Fuller's 19 management, but she was heard by chance by Island Representative Darcis Beese. If I mispronounce names, let me know. He asked around about her for months because he wanted to sign her, but she was already She already had a working relationship and a publishing deal with EMI and producer Salam Remy. That's another name you're going to hear a lot. Salam knew that she knew what she was doing with her music, so he let her put her wit in her records and really showcase who she really was. When she got the record deal, she was able to get her own place with Juliet and do whatever she wanted. She was really excited about that. At the time, she was dating an older guy named Chris Taylor, and she was in love with him and wrote songs, but soon she lost interest in him. The documentary implied that Stronger Than Me was about him. On October 20th, 2003, she released her first album called Frank, which was produced by Salam. There were 2 covers, and the rest of the songs were co-written by Amy. Then she went on tour, and she didn't think that she would become famous, and she knew that if she were, that she would not be able to handle it and would go crazy. She started having interviews and was always her cheeky self during them.
Have they tried to mould you in any way, though, if people ask you to do things to change the way you look or speak or behave?
Yeah, one of them tried to mould me into a big triangle shape, and I went, no. Nah, you know, I've got my own style. I've got my own style, and I wrote my own songs, and, you know, if someone has so much of something already, there's very little you can add.
Yeah. You know what I like about you as well is the way you sound so common. No, because I am common, and, you know, it's like, you know, it's so refreshing to hear someone who isn't speaking like they've taken elocution lessons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They gave me elocution lessons, but they kind of...
They didn't stick.
Off my back, yeah.
Unlike most artists, she didn't allow people on her team to mold her to act or talk in a certain way. She was always honest and straightforward in the most real and refreshing way possible, which is rare, in my opinion. Success to her meant freedom to just do music and for people to leave her alone so that she could do that. In 2004, she won Best Contemporary Song at the Ivors for Stronger Than Me. And in January of 2005, she bought a property in Camden, and that was when things really started changing. At the time, she wasn't working, so she could work on the next album, but she didn't have anything to write about. Instead, she went to play pool often and got drunk. And that was when one day she met Blake Felder in a bar. He was known for partying and for sleeping around. They met and immediately hit it off. They played pool together, went to another bar, and then went back to her place. She already had a boyfriend at the time, but that didn't stop them from starting their toxic on-again, off-again relationship. She was so in love with them and felt like they were twins, so she didn't even want to go anywhere without him. They both had similar childhoods with parental relationships falling apart, and they both had a tendency to sabotage themselves. She was so in love with him that she would have died for him. At the time, she was told to write an album, but she didn't like that very much. She begged her manager and now friend, Nick, to leave 19 and Simon to manage her because she did not want to be connected to pop idols like the Spice Girls that were more manufactured. I don't think this was a slide against the girls themselves, but against the industry. But that's my interpretation. He told her that he wouldn't leave 19 and Simon because he felt like that would be disloyal to the company. Her and Blake dated for a bit when he told her that he didn't want to leave his girlfriend but wanted to stay friends with Amy. She was obsessed over this and just wanted him to want to be with her. After that, she slept with his best friend because she knew that he wouldn't come back to her. However, everything reminded her of him, and she went crazy. She wasn't eating, and she kept drinking all day. One day, a neighbor called Juliet because Amy had fallen and hit her head. Juliet was surprised coming to Amy's place and seeing how dirty it was and that a bunch of squatters had stayed. She found Amy with a huge bump on her head, so her and their other best friend Lauren stayed until 3 a.m. to clean the house, and they called Mitch and Nick. Nick knew that they needed to get her some help. So he contacted her parents, and then he took her to Black Park and Ivor to sit with her until she could admit that she had a problem. She eventually opened up to him and agreed to go to rehab. When they took her to get assessed, she said she would go if her dad told her to. Mitch said that she was fine and didn't need to go, so she backed out. Nick said that he felt like this was the moment that they lost. She could have gotten help before Back to Black put her in the limelight and she would be hounded by the paparazzi. And granted, this is a hypothetical because we cannot go back in time, but it is suggested, like, if she did go to rehab, we wouldn't have Back to Black. But I would rather her still be alive than have Back to Black, to be honest. The label was going to let her go, so she went to Salam's house in Miami to record. He agreed because her music moved him. The whole time she was there, she didn't drink and just kept writing music. Writing the album helped her snap out of it because she was able to get that shit out of her head and put it into music. She can make something good out of something bad. Nick was still worried about her and knew that she was not in a good place mentally, so he said that he wouldn't manage her until she got help. So she decided that she would be managed by her promoter, Ray Cosbert. That worried Nick and the girls because they knew that he would just try to get her on the road. And when she's on the road, she's worse. After she wrote her first song about Blake, the rest just flowed out, and in March 2006, she worked with producer Mark Ronson. In the documentary, she talked about how you have to remember every detail of what you are writing about. And that's what she did when she wrote Back to Black that day with Mark. Tragedy then struck as she got news that her grandma, Cynthia, was sick and she left to go see her. On May 6th, 2006, she died of lung cancer, which was very hard for Amy. Recording continued and she was at Metropolis Studios towards the end of making the track. She was having whiskey cokes and had a big meal. And then for 45 minutes, she disappeared and then came back dazed. The studio manager had Beast come see something. He took him to the woman's bathroom, and that was when he realized that Amy had a problem with an ED. It took 5 months to make her 11-track album with Salam and Mark Ronson as the producers. Ronson liked Amy's honesty with him when she didn't like his work. Listening to all the guitar and garage bands in Camden influenced her album, as well as listening to girl groups from the 50s and 60s like the Ronettes, which influenced her iconic look as well. Back to Black was released in the UK on October 30th, 2006. It reached number 1 in the UK on the UK albums chart in January 2007. It entered the Billboard 200 chart at number 7, and it sold 1.85 million copies in 2007. Rehab became her breakout single, which was wild to her because she didn't think that it would blow up so much or that it would reach the top 10 in the States. However, this was the track that thrust her into the limelight. Soon after, she won a Brit Award, and then the paparazzi started. Fame really terrified her. To be honest, when I saw the paparazzi footage in the documentary, I felt overwhelmed. So I cannot imagine how scary that was for her. Blake came back into her life and they got engaged, who she clung to as fame was something that she was concerned about handling. She soon was on the late night shows in America and headlining tours. On May 18th, 2007, they got married and spent that day on a boat in Miami. She always wanted to feel what he was feeling, so when they came back, that was when she first tried I can't really censor this. I don't know how to censor this. Crack and heroin with him. It didn't take very long for both of them to be addicted to these substances. She started performing again, but she was out of it and just wanted to make another album instead of performing. In November 2007, on the opening night of her 17-date tour, many people booed her and walked out of the National Indoor Arena in Birmingham. She cried, stumbled, and swore at the audience. Here's my opinion about booing. I find it to be incredibly disrespectful to the artist. Yes, you want them to work hard. Yes, you paid tickets to go to their show, but they are people. Remember that. Yes, they need to do their best. Sometimes they can't do their best. Be understanding. Yes, it sucks to pay so much money to see an artist, but it is completely disrespectful to boo. Don't do it. As time went on, her addiction got worse. And one night, Juliet got a phone call, and it was Blake. He said that Amy didn't know who he was and kept asking for Juliet. So she called Nick, and they took her to a hospital. She had OD'd, and she was terrified. The doctor said that they were amazed that she wasn't in a coma with the amount of cocaine, heroin, crack, and alcohol that was in her system. Since she was young and petite, he cautioned her and said that her body would not be able to handle this. So Ray and Mitch decided to have an intervention, and they went to the Four Seasons to do this. Journalists from the Sun, Mirror, and News of the World booked all the other rooms in the hotel to report on this. They recorded every word and took pictures like discussing parasites. It was very, very invasive and very upsetting. She was eating, but she clearly wasn't okay. The doctor said that if she were to have another seizure, she would die. Then Juliet found out that Amy was supposed to go to America to perform, and she was like, no. Lauren asked Mitch to not let her go, but he said that they couldn't because the tour was already booked. So the girls took it upon themselves to take her passport. Soon after the intervention, Blake took her to the bathroom and got her back on heroin. The girls were scolded for taking the passport, and Amy's manager said that the most successful people that were on heroin could function on it. Amy later had to cancel the gigs anyway and was checked into rehab. Blake led this decision, but Amy was more willing to do it than he was. They went to get assessed, and they told the man who assessed them that they wanted to do rehab together. He thought that this was unethical and refused. So Mitch and her management found a place that would let them. They went to Osea Island for rehab, and she did really well there. However, 3 days after, they went to central London and binged in a hotel room. She knew that love was killing her, but she felt like she needed to keep up with his addiction. On November 8th, 2007, her home was raided, and Blake was arrested on suspicion of attempting to pervert the course of justice. When he was taken away, she spiraled very quickly. On November 27, 2007, her performances and public appearances were canceled for the rest of the year due to being under doctor's orders to take complete rest. Mitch said that they did everything they could, but you can't force anyone to get help, and he felt like that was her responsibility. However, she was famous enough that people were doing everything for her, and it was hard for her to make decisions like that independently. Plus, addiction is a disease, and it can cause people to not be able to make decisions clearly like that. So she was not in a position to make those kinds of decisions on her own. So yes, even though she was an adult and was responsible for her decisions, she also had a disease. So I feel like this statement is incredibly irresponsible. In 2008, she was nominated for the Grammys. She was under a contract to not perform for the Grammys or the Brit Awards until she went to a facility and got clean. So that's what she did. However, in January 2008, The Sun posted a video online where she was allegedly smoking crack, and this made it so she was unable to get a visa to attend the Grammys in person. So she was broadcasted via satellite. Tony Bennett presented the award for Record of the Year, which she won, and she was super starstruck that one of her idols presented that award. She won 4 other Grammys for Song of the Year, Best Female Pop Vocal Performance, Best Pop Vocal Album, and Best New Artist. It was an incredible night and everyone was so proud of her. But she told Juliet that it was so boring without drugs. In the wake of the Grammys, she had to hire Andrew Morris to increase her security with how bad the paparazzi was getting. She also wasn't well physically and mentally and just needed people to tell her to stop it. Julia and Lauren no longer knew what to do about Amy. They didn't like the person that she was becoming due to the addictions taking over. So Nick told them that they needed to show that they are not a part of it, but that they need to be there for her when she needs help. On September 6, 2008, Mitch said that she had 5 gigs that she was obligated to do, but besides that, she was going to take a break to focus on her new album. Her performances got really bad at this point. She wanted to get better, but she was tired of the whole situation, so she publicly unraveled. And the media made the situation a whole lot worse. There were even comedy bits about her, which I find to be quite heinous. If you resort to making bits about someone with an illness, then you're not funny. You're repulsive. In February 2009, she was supposed to be in St. Lucia for a week. St. Lucia? Yeah, she was supposed to be in St. Lucia for a week, but that turned into 6 months. While she was there, she quit crack and heroin, but she did drink alcohol instead. In June, Mitch brought a camera crew to St. Lucia to film his story, which she didn't appreciate. She knew that her dad was doing that for clout and money, and she just wanted her dad. From prison, Blake saw a picture of Amy on the beach with another man. His ego was bruised, so they got divorced on July 16th, 2009. From there, she only had her bodyguards to talk to. They were able to tell her no, but were also there to give her support. In 2010, Island said that a new album would come out that year. In July 2010, she said it would be out in January 2011. However, Ronson said that he hadn't started recording her album. In October 2010, she performed a 4-song set to promote her fashion line. This line was in collaboration with Fred Perry, whom she was a fan of. She had a huge hand in the collection, and you can see her influence in the pieces. The Amy Winehouse Foundation continues this relationship today and continues to put out these pieces of clothing. I'll put the link to the website in my description. In early 2011, she continued to have tipsy performances where she was booed and had to cut the concert short. In March 2011, she recorded with Tony Bennett. He needed someone who could sing jazz the real way, and when he heard Amy sing, he knew that she could. He said that she was a true natural jazz singer, and that she should have been treated like Billie Holiday. After that experience, she told Salam that she wanted to do a jazz project with Questlove of the Roots. She had entered a good period in her life after she worked with Tony Bennett. Reg Travis was her boyfriend at the time, and he was very good to her. She could go weeks without drinking. However, she went to the doctor in May to get checked. Due to her years of having EDs and binge drinking, her heart had irregularities. If she continued to drink, her heart could stop. And she said that she didn't want to die. She had offers to do shows, but Ray said that she didn't have to do them. However, she decided that she would. Unfortunately, she was tired of her material, and it didn't feel relevant to her anymore. But she had to perform them. Thinking that this would make it so she didn't have to go, she got wasted before her tour. On Friday, June 17th, she was found passed out on her couch, but she was put in the car and then on a private jet to go. She didn't want to perform, so drinking became her escape. Stumbling, she went on a stage in Belgrade, but she wouldn't sing. Once again, the crowd booed her, but she no longer cared. She was even willing to sabotage her personal and professional relationships, so it all didn't matter anymore. As a result, her tour was canceled. She was excited that she could now go to Nick's wedding on July 24th. 3 weeks passed and she called Juliet. Her friend was elated to hear her sounding so lucid for the first time in a very long time. Amy kept apologizing over and over and just wanted to be in their lives again. They wanted her back too. On July 23rd, 2011, she looked like she was sleeping on her bed, but she'd actually passed away. Her blood alcohol level was 4 to 5 times higher than drink driving limits. And it was a combo of that and her EDs that made her heart stop. Morris recalled being with her the night before. She was showing him clips of her old performances, and she said, "I could sing." She would give it all back just to be able to walk down the street without being bothered. I have had many thoughts after learning about Amy Winehouse's story, and I'm going to try to be sensitive about what I say. First, if you know a loved one who was suffering, whether it be from addictions, EDs, mental health struggles, etc., try your very best to encourage them to get help the instant you see signs of a problem. Don't brush it aside thinking that it will pass. You put their needs first instead of obligations. People are way more important than things like tours. Mental health is important. Well-being is important. Quite frankly, I take a lot of issues with how her parents and how Blake handled things. But I think that her friends really cared about her and tried to get her help. It was definitely a complicated situation with a variety of different factors that contributed to Amy's tragedy, but the enablers in her life made those factors worse. Also, I want to add that if you yourself are suffering from addictions, EDs, mental health struggles, to get the help that you need, you're not crazy. You deserve to be alive. You matter. So I encourage you to get help. It's not easy, but you deserve to be okay. You deserve to be taken care of. Second, haven't we seen enough of these cautionary tales and yet have learned nothing? Paparazzi were bad back then, and they're still bad now. In fact, social media has made things worse. We need to remember that behind the masks of these celebrities lies real people with real problems and real feelings. Before we move our thumbs making harsh judgments, we need to think twice about the fact that we are hurting real human beings. And for fuck's sake, don't follow celebrities around. Don't bother them in public. Let them have their privacy. Everyone has a right to privacy. As for the paparazzi and articles, don't interact with them online. Don't spread unauthorized photos and videos of celebrities captured while they are going outside. We can't stop slimy, opportunistic people from invading people's personal space, but we can make it less profitable for them. Lastly, I want to focus on Amy the person instead of her addictions and her demons. The world needs more artists who are real artists like her. She was cheeky, honest, charismatic, and told you how it was. She was unwilling to become an industry plant and instead wanted to make authentic music with live instruments about how she really felt. When you listen to her music, you can feel it. Music does a lot more than entertain. It heals. As an artist myself who has a very long way to go, I look to Amy as inspiration for being an authentic singer and musician. Like her, I want to create music about my feelings that has the power to move people. I decided that even if I was presented with an opportunity to have any record deals, that I would turn them down because I don't want to be controlled by the industry. Amy didn't let the label control her, and I want to follow that. I know that I can never be as amazing as she was, but what I can do is learn from her and to be able to become my own artist. I hope that there are more artists out there that take this kind of inspiration from Amy. I know that this is the legacy that she would want people to follow, a legacy of being a genuine artist. I want to quickly add that since it is Pride Month, she is an icon for the community and has inspired many artists who are openly LGBTQIA+. In fact, it is believed that she herself was bisexual. And not only that, but she openly supported the community and wasn't afraid to be who she was. And that is an inspiration to us all, no matter how you identify. The world lost Amy way too soon, but I hope that we can all learn from her to do better. Be better people and artists. Let's remember to be kind to others and see them as people instead of celebrities or addicts or any other label. I wish I could go back to my younger self and tell her about Amy Winehouse, the person. I know about her now as Amy the person, and I sure as hell will always look to her as inspiration to be my most authentic self. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comments if I missed something important or got something wrong. Also, let me know in the comments what's your favorite Amy Winehouse song and any appreciation you have for her. I'm basic. I love, I'm no good, and Back to Black. Tears Dry on Their Own is also a really good one that I really enjoy. Also, please leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.